Hey guys, Mark here, and in front of me I have a 6-year-old MacBook Pro. It's the late 2013 13-inch model, and it's been my main laptop of choice for close to a year now. Is it perfect? No laptop ever is, but this is one of my favorite laptops that Apple has ever made for a couple of different reasons that I'll go into over the course of this video. First, as always, let's take a hard look at what this laptop is running with. Inside, we've got a dual-core i5 processor running at 2.4 gigahertz, which turbos up to a blistering 2.9 gigahertz. Joking, obviously. 8 gigabytes of DDR3 1600 RAM and a 256 gigabyte SSD. Unfortunately, 13-inch models did not have a quad-core option at the time. Even the i7 variants of the 13-inch MacBook Pro were dual-core models that are running at slightly higher clock speeds. The 13-inch models also didn't have a dedicated GPU that was reserved for the 15-inch models. We'll talk about that stuff and the impact on performance a little more in the performance section, but for now, let's just move on to the display. The 13.3-inch Retina display on this MacBook is probably the best part of the entire laptop. The 2560 by 1600 IPS panel is sharp with excellent viewing angles and even better colors. I wouldn't even hesitate to say that the Retina MacBook Pros have some of the best displays available on the market, and even laptops from all the way back in 2013 still hold that title. There is one gotcha though. Some of the older Retina displays, including this model year, was plagued by screen delamination issues that drummed up a pretty big stink from the media, which is honestly pretty fair criticism. In response, Apple started replacing those displays under warranty for free. It's hard to say whether they'd honor that 6 years later though, so if you're in the market for one of these, look for a MacBook that either doesn't have any hint of screen delamination issues at all, or one that's already been replaced, like the display on this one was. And if you're wondering, I do have a dbrand skin on the lid of this MacBook to protect it from any sort of scratches and stuff. So before we move on to my experience with it and how it runs here in late 2019, it's probably a pretty good idea to talk about why this laptop is even worth taking a look at 6 years later. Well, to be honest, there are a lot of reasons, to the point where I'd consider buying this laptop over some of the newer models, even if they were priced similarly, which they aren't, and that's the first good reason. You can pick up one of these models for around 450 bucks on eBay or something, which is not something you can say for any MacBook from 2016 and up, at least at the time that this video was released. For 450 bucks, this laptop is a complete no-brainer. It's got an excellent build quality, a near perfect display, plenty of I/O ports, and it runs very, very well for a 6-year-old laptop. But it goes beyond that. If you've been following Apple at any point in the past few years, you probably know that their latest gen laptops have some rather irritating issues, to say the least. Butterfly keyboards that get stuck and have to be replaced, thermal throttling CPUs, and a severe lack of I/O. I love the space gray color, and the performance on the newer laptops is definitely better, sometimes by a wide margin depending on the model you buy, but at least in my opinion, choosing an older MacBook has some serious advantages. First up, the scissor switch mechanism on this MacBook is heaps better than the butterfly mechanism on the newer ones. It has deeper, more solid and satisfying keystrokes, and it is much less prone to failure. If you do a lot of typing on your laptop, the older MacBooks like this one has a much better typing experience. The other big deal is the advantage of having a lot of ports to work with. On the 2013 MacBook Pro, you've got 2 USB 3.0 ports, 2 Thunderbolt 2 ports, a headphone jack, a HDMI port, and a full card reader. On MacBooks from 2016 and up, you get 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports, a headphone jack, and that's it. There's no denying that Thunderbolt 3 is an insanely useful port, but no one wants a dongle or a USB hub hanging off their laptop, and I seriously doubt everyone's made the switch to USB everything yet. But anyway, this isn't a comparison video between the old and new MacBooks, so let's move on and talk about performance and my experience with it. Honestly, for a 6-year-old machine, I'm impressed. No, it's not flawless. There are times where I'm trying to render some footage in Final Cut Pro and watching a YouTube video becomes a little bit choppy. But I mean, what do you expect? It's got a dual-core processor from 2013 and only 8 gigs of DDR3 RAM. Overall, the laptop runs very, very well. As long as video editing is the only thing I'm doing on it, it can easily play back 4K video from my Sony a7 III with little to no difficulty. Sometimes I have to set playback in Final Cut Pro to better performance to avoid frame drops after adding a few effects, but it's not a big deal. It also runs the latest macOS Catalina. I haven't upgraded mine yet because I'm still waiting for them to iron out all the kinks in it before I swap from Mojave, but it's nice to know that a 6-year-old machine is still supported. In terms of performance outside of video editing, the laptop can do pretty much everything I could throw at it. It can run like 10 Chrome tabs without bogging down. It can watch 4K YouTube videos, type Word documents. What else do people actually do with their laptops? That's a genuine question. Oh, gaming, yeah. Don't do that with a MacBook, at least not with a 13-inch one from 2013. Like I mentioned before, dedicated GPUs were reserved for the 15-inch models, so trying to do things like 3D modeling or gaming is a pretty bad idea. It can play some light games like League of Legends or CSGO, but don't expect it to run, The Witcher 3 with playable frame rates. If you're looking for some less vague performance numbers, here they are. In Geekbench 5, we hit a single core score of 639 and a multi-core score of 1391. Pretty standard numbers for a dual-core laptop. It's definitely nothing special, but macOS seems to use it pretty efficiently. The only other downside from a performance standpoint is that any MacBook Pro released after mid-2012 is nearly impossible to upgrade. The RAM is soldered to the logic board, and though the battery and storage can be replaced yourself, it isn't easy, and it should not be attempted if you don't have the right tools and knowledge required. What does that mean for you? It means that whatever laptop you buy, you're pretty much stuck with from a performance front. So if you're in the market for one of these, make sure you buy one with the highest specs that you can. Battery life on this laptop is still pretty good by modern standards. My battery has a total of 800 cycles, and I'm still getting a good 5 hours of mixed use before I need to plug it in again. I have no doubt that over time the battery will start to degrade more rapidly, but I don't see myself needing to replace the battery anytime soon. My experience with this machine over the time that I've had it has been so good that I find myself not wanting a new laptop. Seriously. I used to own a 2012 MacBook Pro that I upgraded with an SSD and 16 gigs of RAM, but after a while I got really sick of that old non-retina display. It seems like such a small portion of the laptop, but when you've got a nice crisp screen with great colors, it makes the user experience just so much better. Would I like to have a quad or hexa-core CPU and at least 16 gigs of RAM? Yeah, but am I willing to pony up the $2 to $3 grand required to get that performance? No, not a chance. I'm not nearly annoyed enough with the slightly long render times in Final Cut for that. So let's review here. The late 2013 MacBook Pro has got an excellent display, a great keyboard, lots of ports, a near perfect build quality, and it runs the latest macOS Catalina without any real performance issues. If you can find any 13-inch MacBook Pro from late 2012 to late 2015 for around $450 or so, it's a steal. And if you're in the market for a reliable workhorse laptop for either school or work, I wouldn't hesitate to tell you that it's a good buy, as long as you're okay with macOS, of course. If the whole lack of ability to upgrade thing is really bumming you out, I've got a video reviewing the 2012 MacBook Pro, which can be viewed up here. If you like this video though, please give it a like and subscribe to support my channel, and as always, have a great day.